Officer for the Ventura County Fire Department. We're here with a press briefing with regards to the mountain incident. I'm going to start with some numbers. As of 7 o'clock this morning, the Sensory aircraft had flown the fire and measured it at 14,500 acres. This is a challenging fire, and it's wind-driven fire, and so we are still at zero containment as we're still focusing on life safety and structure defense. I also want to touch a little bit upon the number of homes that are destroyed and damaged. We are currently in the process of deploying 10 damage assessment teams that are going to go through every street and every property and do an analysis on every outbuilding and every home and give us a report back on that. That is going to take some time. We want to do it right the first time and make notifications to the property owners that their property has been damaged or destroyed. So please hang with us as we are challenged with the time it takes to go door to door with 10 teams. We're going to do it as quickly and efficiently as possible. With that, we're going to go through an operational briefing. We're then going to get a weather update. We're then going to listen to some information on fire behavior. We'll talk to the sheriff, and then with our IC, and then finishing up with our fire chief, and then we'll open up to questions. And with that, we'll go with operations.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Trevor Johnson, captain with the Ventura County Fire Department and one of the operations section chiefs here on the mountain incident. As you all are well aware, at 9 o'clock approximately yesterday morning, resources responded to a wildland fire that is now the mountain incident. That was north of Highway 118 due to the Santa Ana wind event impacting Southern California currently. The fire grew rapidly to that number that our PIO just spoke about, over 14,000 acres now on the landscape. Firefighters, again, were initially engaged in structure defense, life safety operations, and performing nothing short of heroic actions across the incident. Fire continued to progress to the southwest throughout yesterday and into last night. Again, we had resources engaged throughout the evening. Last night, we had water dropping helicopters over the fire the entire evening, which is irregular for any type of wildland incident, but we were able to capture that. Resources are actively engaged around the incident at this current time. Due to the influx of resources into the incident, we've built a more robust incident management structure out there operationally. Resources are engaged, engines, crews, dozers. We currently have aerial supervision over the fire using rotor wing and assessing for fixed wing operations to slow the spread of the fire. Crews are reevaluating and going back through areas where the fire's already passed and making sure that we've done a good assessment and we're checking on everybody, and we're going to have an active presence in there for days to come. Our priority right now on the fire is the northeast corner of the fire. Due to the alignment with slope, topography, and other factors that influence fire behavior, fires continuing to back to the east or progress along the Highway 118 corridor back towards the city of Moore Park, again north of Highway 118. Fixed wing resources, adequate overhead, hot shot crews, hand crews, bulldozers, everything's currently engaged in there. We got more resources incoming, so we'll look to institute them into our plan. Again, we got the right people in the right places. We believe we've ordered appropriately and are managing every aspect of this incident operationally, coordinating with all of our stakeholders due to the damages to structures, residences, infrastructure, power, electrical, you name it. Firefighters are dealing it with out there on the ground. With that, that concludes the operational update. Thank you.
Good morning. Rich Thompson, meteorologist with the National Weather Service office out of Los Angeles, Oxnard. Weather-wise, when this fire broke out yesterday morning, the area was under what was called a particularly dangerous situation red flag warning, or a PDS red flag warning, which for us in the National Weather Service means a very extreme red flag condition with really, really strong winds, very low RH, and very critical fuels. So when this fire broke out, we're under a PDS red flag warning. Now, by this morning, those conditions have moderated a little bit, so now we just have a normal red flag warning in effect for the area, and that red flag warning is in effect for the fire until 6 o'clock this evening. That means we expect Santa Ana winds gusting from the northeast at about 25 to 35 miles per hour through the afternoon hours, along with humidity down to around 10 to 15%. Fortunately, by mid-late afternoon, we expect those Santa Ana winds to diminish in strength and actually maybe get a weak westerly wind moving across parts of the fire. So therefore, by 6 o'clock this evening, we expect those red flag conditions to end across the area. Hence, the red flag warning will be expiring at 6 o'clock this evening for this area of Ventura County. Then going into tonight and tomorrow, we expect tonight and tomorrow morning just a very, very light northeasterly wind across the fire with a kind of a weak westerly wind tomorrow afternoon, but the conditions staying still very dry. Humidity is generally probably 10 to 15, 20% range. But again, the red flag warning will be in effect for this area until 6 o'clock this evening. Then those Santa Ana winds will diminish in strength, and we'll just kind of have a typical weak offshore winds at night, weak sea breezes in the afternoon for the weekend.
Good morning, Drew Smith, Los Angeles County Fire Department, Fire Behavior Analyst. And I just wanted to compliment what Operations Section Chief has talked about and also our incident meteorologist on the why behind fire behavior and the environmental recipe that it's taken to cause this fire. So as we know that we're coming off of 2 years of above average rainfall, which gives us a very robust grass component, and with those fine fuels that are receptive to warm, dry, windy, supports the right recipe to promote large fire growth when we have high winds. So as the Weather Service with Rich talked about our red flag. Red flags mean that we have that warm, dry, windy, and we have a receptive fuel bed with spotting that gives us that exponential fire growth. So when we have those environmental recipe, if you will, to promote this, it's because of the receptive fuel bed, the ember cast that can transfer those embers up to 3 miles and give us that large fire growth. Complementing operations, and what does it mean on the landscape, is when you have high winds, it challenges our tactical opportunities to engage in fire. So when we have live fuel moistures through seasonal drying that are at 60%, which is critical, we have residency time of those fuels as they burn to get in that convective wind column, transport those embers downrange, makes it very challenging for our firefighters to combat these fires. These fires, when we're on our high-risk days with Santa Ana winds, are different from when we have our fires during the summer that are not in a wind-dominated fire environment. So that's what gives us this fire during the fall when we have red flags. Very challenging times for your firefighters for the life safety, the structure defense mission, and containing those fires across topography. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Sheriff Jim Fryhoff. Thank you for being here today. First, I want to take a moment to share our thoughts and prayers for all of those in our community who have been impacted by these devastating fires, particularly those who have lost their homes. We know this is a painful time, and our hearts go out to each and every one of you. The fire danger remains extremely high. I want to remind everyone that we have several new evacuation zones that occurred overnight, specifically in the Santa Paula area. I strongly encourage you all to refer to vcemergency.com for all the latest evacuation zones and road closures. In addition, you can call our incident information hotline at 805-465-6650 to speak with someone. This number is also on vcemergency.com. As of today, we've made over 14,000 notifications to residents in the evacuation zones. We don't have an exact number of those that have been evacuated. We've received many questions about repopulation. We will repopulate as soon as possible. We have not begun that process yet. This is still a very active fire and very unpredictable, and we have a lot of resources out there working this fire, and we want to make sure they are safe as well as they're moving between the city on our main roads. For those who need shelter for large animals, the fairgrounds here are open for large animal shelters, and the Camarillo Animal Shelter by the airport is available for small animals. As our fire partners had mentioned, we're expecting high winds again next week. So it's critical that we all stay prepared for more fire weather. Once again, VC Emergency is your go-to resource to find out the information on closures or additional details related to the fire weather. Lastly, I want to say thank you. This is our community, our home. All the first responders who are working here live here and are responsible for this community as well. We want to assure everyone's safety. So please stay out of the area if you do not need to be here. Once again, I'd like to thank everybody for their cooperation. We're in this together, and we'll get through this together. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Jeff Shay, Division Chief, Ventura County Fire Department and Unified Incident Commander. To echo some of the thoughts and statements previously made, again, the value of our mutual aid system has been leveraged across all entities, whether it's fire suppression efforts, law enforcement, or other avenues of support. Again, our priorities continue to be life safety. Again, we encourage anyone who receives an evacuation order or warning to heed that immediately. Again, and then we'll continue with our priorities of property conservation, which is and ultimately fire suppression. So at this point, as has been stated, the fire is currently 0% contained. Our priorities are life safety and again, infrastructure defense, and ultimately fire suppression. So all those are currently going on, but with the weather conditions, with the red flag, we anticipate fire conditions to continue to intensify up to and until this weather pattern ceases. So thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Dustin Gardner, County Fire Chief. It's been a long 26 hours since this incident started, and it remains dynamic and it remains dangerous. And again, I'm going to reiterate a couple of things that my partners have said up here. To our community members that have been impacted by this fire, our hearts do go out to you. You are our families, you are our communities, our firefighters, our first responders, myself, we live in these communities, and we do take this serious, and our hearts do go out to you, and we will do everything we can to get you back in as soon as we can and to get you assistance when you get back in. Up to and starting, the sheriff has disaster reconnaissance teams out, 10 of them, as you mentioned. That will speed things up. The fire department is putting community resource teams out to work with homeowners, to work with property owners who have lost property. All of our county agencies are already spooling up to make the process easier, faster, and streamlined for folks that have been impacted. So we're going to do everything we can to lessen those impacts, and our hearts do go out to you. Our mutual aid system, as mentioned, has been fully leveraged. To all of our community leaders out there, all of our city partners, all of our county partners and state partners, thank you. The mutual aid system from law enforcement, from fire suppression, from public works, from every angle has been leveraged to the tilt, and everybody is giving us assistance, and I want to say thank you for that. We briefed with Team 5 this morning. California Incident Management Team 5 is here. They are going to come into unified command with Ventura County Fire and Ventura County Sheriff, and you will see them out in the next briefing at noon. So they are here and ready. And one last thing, there were some stories and there was some coverage last night on water. And I just want to cover that our county OES team does a phenomenal job speaking with and coordinating with all of our water purveyors to make sure that they're ready, to make sure they know the event's coming, to make sure that they're prepared to help us when a fire starts. Our water resources were prepared, they were ready. We put hundreds of fire trucks on the system last night, hundreds of fire trucks pumping all night long. We have been fighting fire actively now for 26 hours, and we've had all of those fire trucks hooked up to all of those hydrants, and we drained water systems down. We did run out of water high up in the heights. It was reported last night. It was true. We still had water down low, and we were able to do water shuttles. It's a normal operation. Running out of water, I don't want to say it's abnormal, but it's normal enough. We planned for it. So it's impactful, but it will be mitigated. Our Sheriff OES team is committed to helping get it done and see it through. So all those impacts will be limited. So thank you again, and we're going to open up for questions.
Thank you, Chief. We are now going to transition to the question and answer portion of this press briefing. I asked that there will only be one question per reporter, as there's many are here, and so we can go quickly through the group. If you have additional questions or follow-up questions for the speaker, let's take them offline so we can get through the group. With that, we'll bring up operations for any questions for Cap Tyler. Trevor.
All right, Trevor Johnson here, operations on the mountain incident, ready to answer any questions from the group. Go ahead, sir.
You talked about, or someone else talked about high winds coming back next week. What do you want to let the community know about preparedness for that? Because you're still going to have to be dealing with this fire now, but then you're telling us next week you'll have a similar event as far as wind is concerned.
That's a great question. So What my friend here asked was, what are we expecting with the wind? We're expecting another Santa Ana style wind event early next week, and what that means for us across the incident and all the civilians and the population of Ventura County and our other cooperating partners here in SoCal. What it means is that we got to be prepared. You can see right now what's happening when fire gets established on our landscape, in our fuels, in and around structures with a high wind event. Our goal is to not only take care of all the community out here, but bring stabilization to this incident so that we can free up resources and be ready for the next fire. By no means are we're at full capacity staffing this incident, but if another incident were to arise, we're fully prepared to handle that incident as well. We're doing that with CAL FIRE, IMT 5 coming in, our own operational resources, and we're preparing for that. But again, like the sheriff mentioned, please look at VC Emergency for all that information so we can keep you prepared.
With the fire moving northeast, what communities are you most worried about and possibly eyeing evacuation at this point?
Okay, so the question was, what other areas are we concerned about impacting and future evacuations on the incident? So again, our priority on the fire right now is on the northeast side of the fire. That's north of the community of Somis and south of the community of Santa Paula on the Santa Susana mountain range there, South Mountain area if you're familiar. The fire there's in a tricky place. It's rugged, steep ground that only our finest firefighters can even access to work in there. So we've got aircraft working in there to pin it down. They're coming up with multiple options. We don't plan just for one option to work, so we identify a primary, alternate, a contingent operation in there. We're going to work as best as we can. What we're predicting, and based on what the IMET said there, the Santa Ana wind event is going to subside. And when that subsides, we typically get an onshore flow, which is more typical of our diurnal wind system, meaning our daily wind system, where we'll get a west wind across the fire. With that line being open in there and now introducing a west wind to the fire, it can blow back towards the east, if that makes sense, and if we were talking around a map. So we got warnings and orders in place. All of our resources are out there. They're forecasting ahead. But again, it's that fuel bed there in the Santa Susana mountain range in between highways 118 and 126, sir. Any further questions for operations?
Do you have an idea of what the cause of the fire is at this point?
No idea on the cause of the fire. Again, we are fully committed to bringing resolve to the incident. That is a part of our incident management strategy, but that's under investigation.